Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this week's episode of My First Sketch at myfirstsketch.com. I'm Josh Hyam. As always, feel free to subscribe to the show on iTunes or on SoundCloud and get it automatically. If you use the Stitcher app, the show is also listed there, so you listen there. You can like the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/myfirstsketch. My email is josh@myfirstsketch.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at myfirstsketch. Remember, My First Sketch will have a live recording during Philly PodFest, July 23rd at 4:30 p.m. It's a Sunday afternoon at the Philly Improv Theater's second stage. My guests that day will be the incredible shrinking Matt and Jackie. It will be fantastic fun, and I hope you come out. Tickets are available, and there are links up on the Facebook page. But today's guest is Brian Durkin, currently the host of the podcast Full Belly Laughs and the creator and editor of the website fullbellylaughs.com. His first sketch is called The Interview. Brian Durkin reads as Brad, and Mike Dieva reads as Jordan, the person interviewing for the job. And then, of course, I give all the visual information that you need to know. So, let's go to the sketch. Interior office conference room day. Jordan taps the heel of his foot while sitting alone. Brad bursts through the door, a laptop under his arm.
Hello, Jordan?
Jordan jumps up from the table. They shake hands.
Hi, I'm Brad. You're here for the marketing manager role.
Yeah, yes, I am.
Great, so let's get started.
He opens the laptop.
How do you like this email I'm about to send to my boss?
He spins the laptop so it faces him.
I want to convey that I'm on top of this project, but I don't want him to ask any questions because I'm really terrible at my job.
Confused, Jordan reads the email.
Please go ahead and change that needs it.
Should I be reading this?
You signed the NDA, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Then don't worry about it. Fix that email for me, please.
Jordan looks wide-eyed at the laptop, then begins to type. Brad kicks his feet up on the table.
Here at Covenant, we put our candidates through a rigorous process. In the tech world, we care about acquiring the best talent.
Jordan spins the laptop around.
How's this?
Brad reads the new email.
Excellent. In the future, though, just hit send. I really don't need to be bothered by looking at this.
Click send.
Now draft up this email to my wife telling her I'll take the couch if she takes the dining set.
Jordan scrunches up with a puzzled look.
How does this have anything to do with the job I'm applying for?
Well, I can tell you this. None of the other applicants had any complaints about the process.
Jordan takes the laptop back. He starts writing a new email.
Her address is Carol Davitt, that's 2 T's @gmail. What should I ask you next?
Jordan looks up from the laptop.
Excuse me?
Imagine if you were me interviewing you for this accounts payable position. What would you ask?
I guess I'd ask about my experience, make sure I can balance the books.
Splendid. Great idea. So, wait, did you finish that email yet?
Yes.
Jordan clicks the button.
Cool. Well, I know you're experienced. The work you did for the prompt we sent you was fantastic. The client loved it.
The client?
Oh, yeah. That was a real project we needed completed. Thank you for helping us meet that deadline.
Okay, so am I hired? Is this my first day?
No. Susan from HR will reach out to you after today about the next steps.
Will you pay me for that work on the prompt?
Pay you? This isn't contract work. It's an interview process.
Fade to black. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Josh.
All right, so tell me about this idea. Where did it come from?
This idea came from the fact that for a good year and a half, I was on unemployment and like hunting for a job, and that unemployment ran out, and I did a bunch of crazy gigs, and it was just very frustrating. Like the kind of work I do is related to marketing and content strategy and creating emails and stuff. So I started to get kind of paranoid that there was a lot of jobs I was close for and like submitted like writing samples that were like custom to the interview process and then never heard back. And I'm like, is this like a scam like that all these agencies are in on?
So you were totally worried that you were doing free work for everywhere that you were applying for, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So, and just in general, like the whole rigmarole of like applying for a job is like kind of silly.
Yeah. And what prompted you to write this? Like you were mentioning the Sketch 101. Like this.
Yes. So yeah, I wrote this in Sketch 101. I was volunteering at Philly Improv Theater at the time, and I used my free class money to take
free
this.
Class swag.
Yeah, because that's why I was volunteering, because I didn't have a job. So I had plenty of extra time and not extra dollars.
Right.
So yeah, this was, I believe, the first sketch that I wrote in there. There were some other ideas and sketches I wrote, but this is the one I still have.
Who was
Joe Moore?
Joe Moore was your instructor. Always fun to have Joe Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anyone else in the class that's doing stuff in the scene now?
Probably. One would hope. I know I didn't. I ended up having like a lot of conflicting dates for some reason.
Okay.
Like I remember being in like Matt Schmidt's class a couple times.
So you would substitute out.
Yeah, and then I also like wasn't there like the final day of class because I had like some other gigs. It's like, it's kind of wonky. Yeah, there's like it's a blur of who I was actually in class with.
All right, so where does your comedy fandom start? What are you into? What made you laugh growing up?
Ooh, well, when I was really little, I watched cartoons.
Like what?
Like Cartoon Network stuff. I remember like Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls and stuff, and a lot of Looney Tunes when I was even younger. But yeah, like definitely a product of like watching a ton of Comedy Central. Mm-hmm. So like early episodes of Mystery Science Theater and like the original few seasons of like Comedy Central Presents. Like I remember like Louis Black and like Greg Fitzsimmons and stuff like that.
Okay. I didn't have cable growing up, so I have very little experience with Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like I've only seen a couple of the episodes of the old group, and I've watched most of this new return series. I don't think I get it.
Hey, that's okay. I felt it's funny. I shared this when I was in sketch class, and people were like in awe. But I actually, it was a very long time for me to like appreciate sketch because like I felt that way when I was like in middle school. Okay, and my nerdy friends were like super nerdy about sketch comedy, like SNL and like Kids in the Hall. So I actually got like teased for like not watching Kids in the Hall.
Because I would have been one of those nerdy kids because like when I discovered Saturday Night Live and I started watching it, I full on nerded out. Like I went straight like hard into it. All right. So but explain to me, Mystery Science Theater 3. Like what's the appeal for you? What
the appeal for me is were
you let's just do timeline. Were you more of a is it Mike what's the Joel Hodgson and
he's like
Mike Nelson.
Guy.
Is that the second host?
I'm not a big. Oh, the new host is Jonah Ray.
No, like, but there was like in the original series, Joel did it for a while, and then there was another Mike Nelson. Okay, so were you all Joel? Like,
I'm not that deep to like to nerd out like that. Sorry.
Okay, so that's fine. Never mind.
Now I've lost everyone that listens to the show.
So you just watched it. It wasn't okay. That's
but
fine.
I really enjoyed it because it was so different from everything else I was watching.
Right.
And I still look back on it as like an example on how like you can do something really funny and it might not necessarily fit in this like cookie cutter box of like you have to do sketch this way or you have to do stand up this way or something.
I think part of my thing of it now that I think about it is that idea has been so done. Like that was the first, but now there's riff shows in every city. Like it's a live thing. They've taken it like. That group has splintered into like 3 different things to do 3 different tours. There's podcasts making fun of bad stuff all the time. Like, so maybe I think that's more of my not quite aversion to it, but like where I'm just not on board yet.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I just appreciate the ad lib feel of it, and there's something. It just speaks to me. Like I think I love hosting my podcast because I kind of get to do the same thing, like riff on conversations and stuff. So I think that's just a kind of comedy I really enjoy, and because it's funny because I have like a bittersweet relationship because I love the comedy, but I also can almost never watch an episode in a full sitting because the movie is still terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I still hate that I'm watching the movie.
I watched a couple of that new series. I was like, why are they doing this to themselves? Like,
yeah.
This movie is so bad.
Which I've only seen, like, the first two so far. So, Cry, Wilderness, and Reptilicus.
That one.
That's like the very first
The
one.
Reptilicus was just like, what is happening with my life right now?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this to myself?
So bad.
Like,
it's so bad.
All right, so you mentioned that your nerdy friends in middle school caught on to sketch comedy before you did. What kicked it for you? What got you to sketch comedy? Like,
so before I actually got into comedy, I did some soul searching and wanted to be a writer for a while.
Okay.
I don't think that's necessarily not true, but I'm not as hard on it as I was many years ago. And my focus was screenwriting. So because I don't like to read books, but I've always liked to write, which was like a conundrum for me. But then I realized I realized you could write movies, and I'm like, oh, that's where I'm at. That's both things. I can write it and not have to read it. And so then when I started taking comedy seriously and getting really into comedy, I was been doing stand up and the podcast and improv, and I was finally ready to get over that fear of being teased. I'm I'm gonna do sketch comedy. There's no reason not to. I have ideas that work in this format, and I have a screenwriting background, so it's even easier to pick up the medium in a way.
You'd hope.
You would think, yeah. So it's I wasn't hung up with Celtics, you know what I mean, or actually getting it on paper.
Yeah. All right. So where does I'll Saturday Night Live. I always talk about Saturday Night Live. Everyone gets to ask the same question: who's your favorite Saturday Night Live cast member?
Oh man. It's really tough. I'm gonna say Norm Macdonald's Weekend Update.
Yeah. Is that the first Weekend Update that you experienced,
maybe
growing up?
Although I remember watching the reruns, and I remember going back and forth between him and Dennis Miller, I think. Yeah. So between the two, but something about their style.
But that would have been the live era. Was that the live era that you started watching, or when it was on at Saturday nights, or?
No, I never stayed up to watch it on Saturday night. So it would have been reruns.
All reruns and Comedy Centrals. Okay, Norm Macdonald gets a lot of play, and there's something very. He just seemed to not care,
Yeah, which I identify with because I hate the news, so I like that there was this air of he didn't even want to report this nonsense.
Yeah, he and I think he said in interviews and stuff about the process, we're just we're making fun of the news, so let's completely make fun of the news, where he's just I know there's a clip around of just him smoking a cigarette while he's doing it, not caring at all. The one joke that I love it so much, and I'm sure people are going to get on me for it, where he talks about there's a pie chart, and it's something about women, and it's oh, you'll notice that the math on this pie chart is wrong because it was done by a woman. And everyone groans, and he's that joke was written by a woman, so now you don't know what to think. He just kept going on and on with it. And then all the stuff with I think his interplay with characters, when he didn't do it as much as other people, but when the other people would come out to do their one head, he's just all right, yeah, this is what we're doing. There's just no care given whatsoever. There's just total anarchy for that 10 minutes of the show. All right, so you mentioned what came first to performing for you? Was it stand-up, improv, or stand-up or because you mentioned doing stand-up and improv?
Yeah, stand-up is true first. I tried stand-up 6 years ago or something like that.
Do you remember your first stand-up joke?
I didn't really have a joke. I tried to to tell a story in 5 minutes.
So you're okay.
which is not the right way to approach it at all. But I had a good set because I think enough people in the audience, like it's all comics, and I think enough of them knew it was my first time before I went up there. So I think they kind of like pumped me up more than I deserved.
Where
it was at Urban Saloon before that moved to like Ortlieb's now.
Right.
Which is funny because like a couple 2-3 years ago or whatever, when I like was taking it seriously and like really giving it an honest try, like I actually ended up going back to like, the very same room, which was very like a nice little like story bookend.
Just full circle kind of thing.
Yeah, and then I like that I bombed real hard. That was horrible. But I was in a place in my life where like I just felt really uninspired, uncreative, and like hated the day job I was doing. So I just I didn't care that I bombed. I wanted to get better, and I also still had that. I technically did have that like first time going up like success. So, but I did stand up because I knew I wanted to have a comedy podcast, and I was like, well, I should learn how to be funny. So that it maybe I go on stage and try and tell jokes as a start.
and then you mentioned doing improv. Like, did you do the classes through?
Yeah, I did the classes through Philly Improv Theater.
Did you do the whole?
I didn't do the whole track because I think it was the day after the first day of like 201, I like lost my job or something like that. So like that's what slowed that down. But also, I did not have a good experience in 201. I really did not enjoy. Like I hope everyone had the.
Who did? Okay, who was your 101 teacher?
My 101 teacher was Joel Thomas.
Was that a positive?
That was incredible. I was like hook, line, and sinker on improv. I was like, this is therapy.
You're in.
Yeah, I was so in. I was like, this is because I used to see all these like CBT and like mindfulness therapists and stuff, and they would give me homework assignments I would never do. I'm like, I'm not practicing breathing exercises. Like, this sucks. But like the 101 class, the way that it like just it shaped out, like that group and that teacher, it was all that like living the moment, yes ending, just like go with the flow, like be yourself, don't overanalyze and be anxious. And I was like, oh, this was what all my therapists were trying to get me to understand. So it was awesome. And then 201 was, I think, like a little too. I liked the seriousness because I do want to be a better actor, but it's a weird transition because you got like still like 25 to 50% of the class is like accountants that were like, 101 was really fun.
Right.
And they're not ready to like ramp up.
There's that varying level of seriousness. Like, where I always say with my Sketch 101 class when I did it a couple years ago, there were 5 of us that were like, we want to do this. We want to be on stage. And then there's 5 who was like, ha, 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 I'm going to make a little jokey joke. Like, wah, wah. Yeah. And you could tell the difference of like, we're nose to the paper trying to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's like not so bad in sketch because you're kind of off on your own islands. And you just like help do table readings.
When you're stuck in a room on stage, on a makeshift stage with 7-8 other people.
Yeah,
a couple of them aren't as serious as you are. Like,
it's brutal to do like pickup scenes with someone that's just like not making it easy to like work together.
That episode of The Office where you see Michael Scott's improv class. Have you ever seen that?
I didn't see that episode.
It's like it's season 2 or 3, and his approach to improv is my worst fear of everything. And that's what you're supposed to be. Like, that's how they wrote it. Where he comes every improv scene, he's busting through a door. Boom! Detective Michael Scott! Yeah. And he's got guns for everything. Yeah. Every scene he has a gun. No matter what was happening.
Yeah.
Like 2 other people are are in a restaurant making dinner. Boom! I hear there's drugs here. Like, it's just so stupid. Like, and that's always my worst nightmare about improv is there's gonna be that person.
Yeah.
All right. So you do a couple improv classes, you do the sketch classes, but you mentioned podcasting is your goal, was your end line.
Yeah.
So you have Full Belly Laughs.
Yep.
Where do we start with this? How does that come about? What's the idea germination for you?
Oh, sure. So I was out to brunch with one of my best friends, Brittany, and this was like right before I jumped into doing comedy, and I was feeling very uninspired. And years ago, I used to have like a serious like board gaming blog and had all these strategy articles and stuff, and that was cool, but I didn't want to do that again because it was like a ton of work. Like Because like when you feel depressed about your life, you're like kind of motivated, but you also like have no energy because like your life is so draining. So we're sitting there eating, and I'm just like, man, these food bloggers, they just have it so good. They just eat and then they talk about it, and so like I could do that. But I at least had the foresight to be like, well, I'm not gonna be like the next guy giving stars like in the Inquirer or something. You know, like who the hell am I? And I'm like, well, I'm a kind of a funny dude, so it's like maybe I'll just do like the anti-food blog.
Sure.
Like it'll just be it'll be like the reductress of food or something. And so that's where like the idea kind of started. And then I was like, at the same time, I was like getting way more into listening to podcasts, and I was like, oh, this totally could be like a podcast too.
Because the podcast, as I listen, the few episodes I've listened to, you talk about food for a bit, and is there always some kind of this versus that discussion?
Yeah,
or is
usually. So there's usually like the topic is typically a this versus that, 'cause it's just really easy for like fans to like write in their opinion. But there's other times where it'll be like best burger in the city or something like that.
Actual honest to God recommendations and and then you play a board game for a bit.
Yeah, so it's like the show is like a dinner party meets like a board games. Like the meal used to kind of be on the show too, but it's tough to edit out showing. So.
Yeah. Because you always hear whenever there's like podcasts about like mouth noises and chewing, and like no one likes that. And as I'm here with a giant thing of water, and I'm always moving my mic all the way across the room to make sure that no one hears me drinking. Yeah,
we had a fun riff on one of the episodes where we were talking about that, because I had like a plate of nachos out. So then for like a good cool 4 minutes, we were just making all the most obnoxious sounds you can listen to. I love that segment, but
I'm sure there's a ton of people that don't get the joke of it. They're just like, as Mike Diaz is still in the room, just like cringing and freaking out by it. But all right, so the couple episodes I listened to, you did the Chuck Klosterman.
Yes, that's a new segment on the show.
Hypothetical.
Yeah.
And then you were playing Guess Who.
Yes,
where
that's
they
a classic.
weren't allowed. I've never played this way. I've never heard this before until this podcast. You weren't allowed to comment on appearance.
Yeah,
like the broad strokes of appearance, like brown hair, male, female.
Yeah, so to give the listener some perspective, Guess Who's a board game where you have like an illustrated character, and there's 24 of them on the board, and you get a character card, and it's like 20 questions that they get to ask questions to try and figure out who your character is.
And by process of elimination, you should be able to figure out.
Yeah, and as a kid, you're like, is your person old? Is your person a lady? You know, to like really like deduce it down.
Yeah,
and,
because in that game, if you pick a female,
your
odds to win are like, I mean, the other person's odds to win, because like you're putting down 3/4 of the deck right
there's
away.
Only 5 women.
Right, so there's a 1 in 5 chance that you're going to get on the next thing anyway. So but the rules that you have is you have to make you basically have to make assumptions about that person's character or proclivities, activities, what they like to do instead. Which is just insane to me. Like,
it's fun.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it's cool. Like pretty much anytime we do the board games every episode, but whichever board game we play, we usually alter the rules in a way where it gives people a chance to be funny and like tell a story and kind of do a Mad Lib in a way. So, that segment has worked out really well. I read about that on BoardGameGeek.com. I am not a genius. Yeah, no, I give credit where credit's due. I did not come up with that myself. Some couple like posted in the Guess Who forum page, like, oh, here's an alternate way we play, like me and my wife, and I was like, that's gold.
I know that the internet is a place for obsessive stuff and stuff like that, but the fact that there's a forum for Guess Who, kind of bums me out.
Well, that's like a sub forum in a web of forums of all
just
games.
Picturing the awfulness that's happening around Guess Who. Like, oh, there's a Battleship forum. Like, why do you need a Battleship? Like, what's the purpose? What's the need? Like, I can't even like wrap my head around.
But that's where you find these diamonds in the rough. You find a dope way to play Guess Who that's just like, I've had so many guests like after like recording the show be like, dude, I can't believe Guess Who was that much fun. Like, I want to go get a board so I can play it that way, like, just at home.
Yeah, I mean, Guess Who's a pretty cheap thing. So, like, you know, it's a classic board game. It's what, like $12 at Target or whatever. Like,
Ooh, you actually can only get the kids version at Target because I went scouring for boards for the show.
you can't find the Guess.
You have to go to Barnes and Noble in their board game section, and it's
so it's gonna be $30 there.
I think it was like 15. But they don't get you too bad.
Don't look it up, Mike Diava. All right, so the podcast has turned into a full website where you're posting. I was just about to use the word content. I almost threw up on my mouth.
No, that's fine.
I hate the word content personally. Where you're posting articles, you have people that are posting and talking about food more and more. Like, where is that just the next evolution of the podcast to you? Like,
I think I love where the podcast is now. I don't think there was a time where I was getting like food experts on the show, and I like love those episodes, but that's not like really my world or like my network. So it's like I have those few gets, but like I really just know a bunch of comedians. Right. So food experts are totally welcome to be on the show. I'd love to have them, but it for now will always kind of be like a dinner party feel, even when I have those people. It'll never be like a panel discussion where we like get super nerdy.
Like, you're not getting into like the science of food with Alan Brown.
No.
Like,
because also too, like at the end of the day, like Full Belly Laughs is supposed to be a parody of like Bon Appetit or like I can't remember the other one, but like there's some other
like the Southern Cookings,
or the one that's like in New York that I feel like always comes up when I search stuff. But it's like we would do like how to like melt butter and drink it as our like tasty 30-second video. You know what I mean? Like, like so we never want to take ourselves too seriously.
Right, because those tasty videos are awful to me. I hate them so much.
But I watch them all, and I'm like, I love. What's genius about them is I'm like, oh, this video is only 30 seconds. I totally should be able to make this thing.
And there's like, absolutely no way you can do it.
Somehow at 22 seconds, I'm like, oh, don't, fuck that. There's no way.
It's like, make a chicken taco.
Yeah.
Nope, don't have that chicken. Like, completely forgets the point that you have to cut the chicken, like, all that other, like, extra steps that...
Yeah. The video's...
bowl of chicken right into the thing. Like,
yeah, the video's 30 seconds, but it really takes 6 hours.
Yeah. It's what I don't understand, like, those cooking shows, and I love cooking shows. Like, I don't like Chopped. My favorite was Cutthroat Kitchen. Okay. I loved Cutthroat Kitchen, and the fact that they're making a full meal, and I can debate about cuisine and all that, but like a full meal in 30 minutes is just like, no, that's not a thing. yeah, no, that's true. It's funny. I've always liked Chopped, and like Iron Chef's probably my favorite. Yeah.
I'm really, I mean, before I got into comedy, I used to like be pretty competitive with like board games and card games and stuff. So like I love competition. So to me, like I just appreciate watching them battle. Right. So it's like, to me, what's nice about Chopped is it's like, I think they drag it out too much. Like I wish Chopped was like a half-hour show. Right. It would literally be perfect if it was 30 minutes. Because I don't care why you're doing that. Like, yeah, no, I don't need the story. I don't need your inspirational story of just cook the food. Just cook. Just use the kale. Come on, let's go. Like, I just want to see them throw down. And then, I mean, that's why I like Cutthroat, because it's like, there is no inspirational, and it's like, hey, I'm going to screw you over right now. Like, I love that. Yeah, that's what's cool about Alton Brown's show. He has one where, like, I forget what it's called, but it's like, they're doing, like, quick fire challenges. And then, like, while they're doing it, like, they have, like, some amount of, like, equity that they can trade away. That's Cutthroat. Oh, that is Cutthroat? That's Cutthroat Kitchen. For some reason, I thought Cutthroat was like, what's the Gordon Ramsay show then? I don't care. I don't like him. I thought that was his show. You know what I mean? Because it just sounded so like aggressive. He's Master Chef and I guess like Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen. That's right. The other one. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Cutthroat Kitchen is my favorite thing. Yeah, that show is great. And like the fact that you can like buy a sabotage and I love it. Yeah, it's sweet. It's cool. So cool. Like, yes, someone should be able to make grilled cheese on an iron. Like, come on. Like, yeah, it's pretty rad. Like, it's nice. It's a neat layer. But then I think about like my chicken nuggets are in the oven for 20 minutes because they're frozen. Like, that's my first thought. It's like, I can't make anything in a half hour. Like, my Trader Joe's chicken nuggets take forever. Yeah. So the website content. I like the word content.
I hate it so much.
Why do you hate it?
I think it devalues everything.
Devalues everything.
I hate it so much. Like someone said that, like, oh, it makes me cringe. I hate it.
I think people like with a lot of things they can use words that like the way they use it can irk me. But like I like content as like an umbrella word where it's like we can just talk about comedy.
I'm perfectly okay with just stuff.
Yeah, okay.
The stuff I put on stage is perfectly fine, but once you say content, it immediately makes I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just like that weird like top level. Like I hate it when people want to talk like when they make assertions about comedy, but it's like it's so like sketch versus stand-up versus podcasting versus
so
improv, so vastly different. So it's like it's weird to like. To your point, I think it's weird to like make generalizations.
All right. With the website, you have a group of people that are writing, and how much is it like? What's the joke versus recommendation ratio to like?
I would say
like, what's the actual like real versus?
Oh yeah, it's probably like 90% joke. It really depends on like the article. So Alyssa Al-Duki put out like a great article recently that was like. It was something like 7 cuisines you should enjoy before, like, they're banned from the country or something like that.
Right.
So, like, it was obviously, like, a huge blast against, like, the administration and everything. But at the end of the day, she was, like, legit recommending, like, cool places to eat in Philly you might not know about because they're, like, Iranian.
You have it's a food and comedy website, so how do people actually, like... And I don't think you're trying to be a critic necessarily, but like when you actually have something that you want people to do, like, is there a bit of like have you ever had like a blowback of?
No, because I think
of a sincere recommendation becoming like a joke thing, or
no, I feel like that's like a weird example of the one I just used. Like most of the time, our recommendations are about something silly. Okay. So it's like I wrote an article that was like the best takeout to eat while riding the bus or something, which is like a goofy situation, but it's like relatable.
Everyone's been on that public transportation where someone's eating something awful.
Yeah, that's like too like pungent or like messy. Yeah. So like that's a way for me to like plug places where I like their takeout, but like in a funny context.
Right. All right.
So that's like a good. So like an article that I'm like working on is like. Like places in Philly that have like the worst water. It's like a pet peeve of mine. Like I love Sabrina's Cafe. I think that place is incredible, but they do not give me water fast enough for like how insane their portions are. Like I'm like dying halfway through my like huevos rancheros. Like I'm like just bring a pitcher at this point. So, yeah, weird observations like that. I try to.
And with the live show, because you do a live show at Fit every month, is it basically the same as the podcast? Like,
it's a little. It's if you listen to the podcast, you can expect very similar things to the live show. The big fundamental difference is we definitely get the audience involved. Okay. So, like. The guests that are on the show pick someone in the audience to like play for, and
so it's
it's like the Douglas
movies.
Yeah, it's the Douglas movies model. So we bring like a bunch of prizes, and I always make sure there's at least one legit prize. So we have a ton of gag prizes.
Because I remember the advertising for like the last show was like a Chromecast or something.
Yeah,
that's a decent prize. For
I think so.
For a random comedy show at Fit on a Thursday night, like
I mean most people in the audience have free tickets, so it's like even better. But I mean tickets are only $5 for civilians because it's like a Thursday show. So
absolutely.
I usually try to give away a prize. Like that's usually like the budget for the show. So there's usually something like that you can count on, and we'll play like if we play Guess Who, I'll give like my answer to their question like yes or no. But I'll like. What we'll have behind the guest will have like a slide
the
that
actual
is the character, so everyone in the audience can see it on like listening, and then like
makes sense.
I'll go to them and be like, "Do you agree? Yes or no?" And when we play categories, like they cheer for the answer that they want to get the point.
Okay.
It's like they're like involved.
All right. You've dipped your toe into all the little portions of comedy. You've done a little improv. You've done stand up. You've tried out sketch a bit and podcasting. Why do you do it?
I do it because I love to have a good time. I'm like one of these people where it's like it's very important to me to like do something for myself for fun before I go to bed because like I just might not wake up. So
Oh my gosh.
I know that sounds really grim, but it's like I don't like ever want to just be like stuck doing crap I don't want to do all the time. So it's like and I'm the kind of person that's always used like comedy to like get over like great pain and stuff. So it's like I can find fun and funniness in a lot of things. So yeah, it's always been kind of like a part of my life. So that's I'm glad to be taking it seriously and being involved in it. And it's been a long time coming. That's like really my only regret is I should have probably started like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And then you've done everything. What's something that you've learned from comedy that you would pass on to someone just getting started, like whether, life lesson or practical comedy tip?
Oh, well, they're different questions. So
you can do both.
I'll try. I'll bestow what I'm thinking about. One,
whatever wisdom you want to glean and pass on.
One thing that I've noticed that's been tough for me is, I feel like I'm a worse person now for doing comedy in like normal social settings.
Okay.
Because like, and this just might be a personal problem, but like, I have like lower tolerance now for like jokes civilians do. So
I kind of gonna have to agree with you on that too. Like,
yeah. So it's like family gatherings are like more difficult now because like my cousin isn't the funniest person I know anymore. So like and like they seem, you know what I mean? It's kind of like I can't think of like a good metaphor, but it's like, yeah, you could. It's like you might think the guy that plays piano at Reading Terminal is like literally the greatest pianist ever,
right?
Until you actually like start playing yourself, and you're like, oh, that guy just literally plays like the same 3 chords or something. Yeah. So that's like a weird runoff effect that just requires me to be a better person. I think it's important to. One thing I've learned in comedy is it's literally like anything else. Like it may seem wonderful and amazing at first, but like there's clicks just like any other world, and it's totally random on like sometimes who gets what and what happens. So it's like my best advice is just to kind of like you shouldn't do comedy because you want to be like rich and famous.
Yeah.
Just like that should never be your motivation for like anything, because it'll get less fun real fast.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's super fun.
Brian's podcast, Full Belly Laughs, comes out every Tuesday, so subscribe and listen. Check out the website fullbellylaughs.com for articles blending comedy and food. And he does a monthly live edition of Full Belly Laughs at Philly Improv Theater. The next one is June 8th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available at fitcomedy.com. There will also be a live Full Belly Laughs during Philly PodFest, July 23rd at 1 p.m. at Tattoo Moms. So, go to his show, grab a late lunch, and then head a little west and see the live My First Sketch at 4:30. My First Sketch is a Philly Sketchfest production. You can find out more information at phillysketchfest.com or on Twitter at PHLSketchfest. Also, for more information about comedy in Philly, head to watercooler.com. The music on this episode is by the band Nono, which you can check out at nonoband.bandcamp.com. And of course, like My First Sketch on Facebook. This is Josh Hyam. Thanks for listening. Go see some comedy.